Hi and welcome to Fantasy Footy Fan, Jeff here. So hopefully you guys had a good round. Finally, we're at the end of the buys. We can take a bit out of that, but at the same time, if you're not ranked as that well, like as I am, it's nothing really to worry about. We just have to navigate through the buys, but this is where we're going to really see how our teams are going to go out of the buys when we have a full 22. That's what I'm counting on. I'm not too phased, to be perfectly honest, with my score and where I'm ranked. I actually think that I'm actually positioned quite well considering my team and the trades I'm making this week. I think I'll actually come back quite nicely. So I scored an 1840. So not a great score, obviously. I mean, a 77k rank. It's pretty bad. I'd probably put that down to a couple of things. I am trading for the best 22, not the best 18. But also too, looking into my score. So again, my overall rank is 15k, so I dropped nearly 6k this round. But again, like I said, I'm not overly fussed. But looking into my team, there's not a lot you can do when your premiums or semi-premiums just score badly. I mean, there's nothing much you can do about it. When these players normally average 110 or higher, and they just do not score well at all, then you're going to get rounds like this. But this is the thing. It's just, one of these. I mean, you may have copped this, you may not have, but it's just one of these things where, it's like a perfect storm in a bad way. And you get these players that just have a bad score, but normally they're not going to average this. So if you have a look at my team, I brought in Wanganeen Malira, and look, as Ross Lyons said, the Saints game was an aberration. I really think these players are going to perform well. I brought in Wanganeen Malira because I needed to get rid of Will Powell, and all the cash I had left, I could only afford Wanganeen Malira. So I brought him in. I think he will average, about 100, 105 by the end of the year, and he'll be a good D6 for me. That's the way that I see him. So he'll be a D6. And I also brought in, just looking through my history. I took out D'Ambrosio for Wanganeen Malira, and then I also traded out Sanders for Graham as well. I think that was a good move. I think Sanders, just because of Bevo and the sub and all that, I think Graham was a good choice to bring in. And then I traded out, it doesn't show it this way, but basically my three trade outs were Will Powell, D'Ambrosio and Sanders, and I brought in Marshall, Wanganeen Malira and Graham. I reckon they're actually good trades. It's just that this week, the way that the Saints played, it just didn't work out. So Wanganeen Malira got a 69. Now Rosie, who's been averaging 114, got a 65. Tom Green, which I guess I did expect against Carlton, as I predicted in my last video, that Green wouldn't do as well, and that was to be expected. So he got an 82. The premium prime ball movers against Carlton tend not to do well. And then Miller got an 88. Marshall, who I brought in, I thought, based on his history, he's coming in off scores of 147 and 120, comes in and gets a 51. That wasn't ideal. He did okay, but still a 98. I had some premiums there that just, didn't do well, but this is not going to be every week. I'm not actually too worried. I think that after this week, my team's going to be in good nick. Looking at my defense, for example, having Sheasel, Dacos, Yo, and Wanganeen Malira, and then Closey and Graham, I'm happy with that for now with my defense. Looking at their averages, I think with my mids, Sarong, Rosie, Green, Miller, they'll all average around that 115 mark. And Davies Uniacke got a 101. Again, it's pretty tough watching him play. He's just not putting in. When he's sort of right next to the contest, right next to the ball, he might do something. But outside of that, he doesn't chase. He's not, chasing down tackles unless the player's right in front of him. So I'm just really worried about either an injury or his attitude. I'm not exactly sure. But he still has, when he gets the ball, when he moves, it's still all right. Anyway, like I said, with him, I'm not going to bother with him. He's got the potential to score, so I'm just going to leave him there. I know that there are some teams who are ranked very high that still have LDU, and they're just keeping him there and adjusting the rest of their team. That's what I'll be doing. Marshall and now Gawn I've got, so my rucks are set. And then my forward line having Heaney, Flanders, Jackson and Powell, and then a couple of rooks there. I'm pretty happy with that. And then I'm going to make another trade this week where I'll bring in another underpriced premium mid. So I think, by the end of this round, I'm hoping to make a move back in the top 10K. That's what I am predicting. And then we'll just see how we go. But again, not too worried about my rank and my score. It's a very long season, and I think I can definitely make some ground in the next few weeks. So with my VCNC, I went for Marshall. It was all set up for him to score well, coming off those big scores, and then playing against English. And of course, English gives up gives up points to opposition rucks. So it was all set up, and in the end, English was the one that obviously scored well, and Marshall didn't. So I thought with Sarong playing against West Coast, there'd be a good chance of him doing well. And in the end, he did all right. He was up to like maybe 70 or something like that at half time. I was really expecting a massive score, but then West Coast ran away with the game, and Sarong, a 117. I mean, I was thinking of taking Heaney, but he got a 98, so I'm glad I stuck with Sarong. I was thinking about Dacos there for a little while, but Sarong pretty much was the main one I wanted to take. And looking at how my other premiums scored, I guess I'm okay with that. So as far as suspensions, injuries, we'll have a look to see what happens with Williams and Hayden Young, if you've got Hayden Young with the hamstring, and even potentially, there's Tom Stewart, who's likely out for a week with concussion. And then we've got Matt Crouch coming back, and then we've got players from Melbourne and Richmond. So obviously we've got players like Gawn and Oliver and Petrarca, and maybe some of the rooks if you've got a Windsor. And then for Richmond, we've got some players there, maybe some rooks we could look at. But we'll have a look at the teams anyway and go through them and see, what we can get from some of the SuperCoach relevant players in some of these matches. So, as I said, we'll start with the players that are coming off their bye. Obviously, most of you have Gawn, you're looking at Gawn, Marshall, English, Grundy, and Sherry as your five main rucks. So if you've got two of those five rucks, you're pretty set. Even Sherry, we were going to upgrade him, but he's just doing so well. So I wouldn't even bother. If I had Sherry, I'd be really happy just holding on to him, maybe till the bye, maybe even for the whole year. Just depends on how well he continues to go. But with Max, if you're keen to get him in, 696k, I mean, I'd be looking at Marshall or English. Max would be out of the question now. For other Melbourne players, you got Petrarca. He's down to 623 now. He's got a break even of 157, so we can wait till he bottoms out and then maybe look at him then. And then with Oliver, again, similar situation. We at the very least want to see him actually playing a couple of good games. So he's down to 502. I know I mentioned some of these players in my last video, but he's lost 172k overall, break even of 160. So we'll just wait to see when he bottoms out and then assess him then. I think Windsor, some might have him, and he's got a break even of 45, so you could definitely keep him for another week or two before thinking of trading him out. And then I think that's probably it for Melbourne and Richmond. I think there might be, we'll go through the break evens a little bit later anyway, go through the high and the low break evens. There might be some Melbourne and Richmond players that might come through there. But looking at St Kilda and the Western Bulldogs, that was an interesting game just purely because St Kilda played so badly. Ross Lyon did say it was an aberration, and when we have a look at it, and when a Jack Steele gets an 84, it has to be an aberration considering the form that he is in. So you'd expect St Kilda to really come out firing this week. And looking through their team, they're just the main ones we're considering. So obviously with a Jack Steele, if you don't own him, you're probably looking to see if maybe he drops a little bit. His break-even's 133, but in the form he's in, he could easily achieve that. But I'd love to get him in, but I might just wait and see, hopefully, if he drops a little bit in price. Bonner is the other one. There might be a few that own him. He's got a break-even of 71. He went up 10k, and he's made 107. But now might be the time to upgrade him. I mean, potentially you could still hold him. He's averaging 82, and with just a break-in of 71, you could probably hold him for another week. But then you'd be looking at upgrading him, hopefully. So Sinclair, he scored a 73, and so we're not thinking about him at all until he puts up some good scores and bottoms out. But Hugo Garcia might be the one that most will jump on. And one of the main reasons behind that is the fact that he actually played a bit of time in the midfield. He didn't start as a sub like last time, but he actually started in the 22, and he had 44% CBAs. So if he continues to have some CBAs, that was going to really help him his score. And he ended up getting a 69. 14 possessions. I mean, 10 were handballs, unfortunately, but he had 9 tackles. And he kicked a goal. 5 clangers, hopefully he can reduce that. But yeah, he'll be the one to get in. Negative 45 break even, and only 117k, and he's a mid forward. So he'd be looking at him to bring in if we're downgrading. So Wangani Malira, again, I wouldn't worry too much about the premium scores for this week, although I wouldn't call Wangani Malira a premium. He's probably just a semi-premium maybe, but a D6, I guess, or in the top 10 anyway. He might end up averaging. But he, I guess there's an opportunity to bring him in. You might get him under 500k next week. His break-even's 128, so just one to think about, I guess. Darcy Wilson, a 69, so we're really happy with that. 5 break-even, went up 32k. He's made 106k now, so we just hold on to him and wait till he maxes out. So as I said, Rowan Marshall, I think if you're looking to upgrade to a ruck, if you don't have any of those 5 rucks I mentioned before, Marshall might be a really good one now. 168 break even, and he might end up dropping another 20 to 30k, so you might be able to get him on the cheap. And to get a premium ruck like him, considering how he has scored, that will be a great get. So that's probably about it for the Saints. Then with the doggies, so Bont got 110. I think for the non-owners, like myself, we really need to get him in. You can't really have a team without Bont. He is what's helping all the other teams that have him, especially in the top 5 to 10k of teams. And he's worth 646. He went down 18k, has a break even of 171. So he could potentially be brought in, if not next week, then the week after. So, obviously we're all hoping, for non-owners, we're hoping that, he gets another 100, 110 this week and then drops, a fair bit in price. If we can get him for around 600k, you'd be happy at that. But I think this will probably be the last time that we'll be able to get him this cheap. So we'll wait till he bottoms out and then move heaven and earth to try to bring him in after that. Do what you got to do to get him in. The fact he's lost 78k, and considering that we could get him at a price where he would have lost anywhere between or anywhere around 100k, I think is great. So, but we need to get him in soon. So Jack McRae was an interesting one. He scored a 123. Now, Normally we would have said, well, that's because Libba's not in the team, but Ed Richards kind of played more the Libba role in that midfield. Jack Macrae still had centre bounces, but was still able to score quite well. Only 34% CBAs, but still scored a 123. So we are, of course, pretty desperate in the forward line to get some premiums in there. He is a premium, Jack Macrae, when he is playing in a proper position, but he's down to 480k now. He lost 16k. He's lost this week, lost 78k overall, and now up to 480k with a break even of 64. So, he could probably go up maybe 10, 20k this week. He'll still be around the 500 mark. If he has another good game with Libba in the team, then he's one we have to consider. If we can get a Jack Macrae averaging 100, 105 in our forward line, I think that's worth considering. Tim English, so he scored a 114. I think, again, he's a great option to upgrade to in a week or two. So he's lost 103k, lost another 37k this week. His break-even's 177. I think he is a great option to bring in when he bottoms out because he's averaging 111, but he will average a 115 to 120 by the end of the year. So just definitely keep an eye on him. So Riley Garcia scored an 82. Now, I don't know about his job security, but he's played just the one game. He's a 125k forward, negative 33 break even. I mean, yeah, sure, you could bring him in this week, but I think it might be good just to wait one more week to just get a good look at him. He played all right. So he had 17 possessions, 10 were handballs, but he had 6 tackles in that and 9 contested possessions. So that's a really good sign. But again, just not sure about his job security. But yeah, let's maybe see how he goes next week. And then we had a few other these little rooks that some of us may have. Buku Kamas a 53, Harvey Gallagher a 50, Sam Darcy a 49. Unfortunately, all scored very low. And then you've got your Sanders. I'm just going to have a look at Darcy and Sanders. They're probably owned by most. So he went up another 32k. He's gone up 160k overall, so he's made his 150k. But yeah, just the last few scores have not been that great. Well, not last few, but the last one, a 49. So let's hope he can get back in and score well. He did play along with Lob as well, but hopefully Lob gets dropped for Sam Darcy's sake. And then hopefully he can put up another big score and then we can keep him for longer. Unfortunately, he didn't get the ruck forward status, which is a bit disappointing. That would have been really handy to have. But yeah, we'll have to see how he goes till the next DPPs are announced, which is around 12. So we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully he gets DPP status by then, or maybe even by then we would have traded him out. So but we'll just see how he continues to go, Sam Darcy. And then, as I said, Sanders, I think there were a few when we found out he was the sub. A few might have traded him out. He lost 15k, break even is 107. We don't know what Bevo's going to do with him. Look, Sanders is still owned by 59%. You may be looking at others that you're downgrading or trading and you just want to keep him on the bench because you think he'll come good. Yes, if Bevo can keep him in the best 22 and just not sub him or use him as a sub, he would be an awesome pick. And I guess if you own him, that's what you're really hoping for. But yeah, I decided to trade him out. I wanted the cash to make the trades that I wanted to make last week. And that's why I took him out, especially when he was named as the sub. So the Adelaide Essendon game becomes very interesting, of course, because of Jordan Dawson. So Dawson scored a 168, 22 kicks, 9 handballs, 7 marks, 9 tackles, 2 goals, 14 contested possessions. But this is what we want to see. Only 3 clangers, 71% disposal efficiency. So that has obviously really helped his score as well. He was back in the middle, had 80% CBAs. So we just have to really hope that he continues to play in the midfield. We'll have to wait and see how he goes when Crouch comes back in the team this week. But I think having a look at the fact that he went up 16k this week, break even of 73, he's lost 114k overall, and he's 533k. I don't think he's going to be this cheap again. And as we know with Dawson, he is a top 10 mid for sure. So I think this is the week to get him in. Good on you if you brought him in this last week and you're able to nab his 168. That's awesome. Good pick. But this is the week, and I'll actually be bringing in Dawson. I would probably prefer to bring in Walsh, but I will go through my trades and explain them a little bit later. So Rory Laird's another one to keep in mind. So he only scored a 74. So for non-owners, he's going to be really good, nice and juicy to bring in. He's only 574k. He's gone down 78k overall, and he's went down 35k this week. Break even of 174. So let's wait till he bottoms out. He is a much better player than what he's priced at. He's averaging 104 at the moment. It's just because of his last two games, an 80 and a 74, but he definitely will come good. I think Nix is messing around with his midfield. He's rotating Rankin and Saligo, which he did this week, rotating all these like quicker players through there. So yes, it is impacting players like Dawson and Laird, but Dawson and Laird still will be used by Nix in the midfield. And I think they will eventually come good. So let's wait till Laird bottoms out for non-owners. Obviously for owners, you're holding naturally. And then looking at Essendon. So Jai Caldwell still continues to spend time in the midfield. So he scored a 129. So that's now, he's on that trajectory, I guess, that 99, 99, 83, but a 129 this last week. So he continues to play in the midfield and score well. He had 64% CBAs. So, look, 479k. I mean, really, we should be focusing on downgrading and upgrading to premiums. But if you're in the market and you want to get a value pick, I think he's one worth considering. Nick Martin continues his good form, 114. We can now bring him into defense. And he will end up being a premium defender and will finish in the top 10 at the very least, but he will likely finish as a top 6 defender by the end of the year. So kudos to you if you kept him and held him or brought him in on his bubble. He was on the bubble, but for ones like me and others, we traded him out. I would like to trade him back in, but I think I want to focus on some other more value picks. But with Martin, I think if we don't have him, we'll eventually have to bring him in. Zach Merritt, a 109. So if we don't have him, let's see how low he can drop. 156 break even. He's got Anzac Day this week. He's not going to drop by much. Eventually, we'll have to bring him in at some point. So Darcy Parish still continues to drop. Let's talk about him when he's got some form back. When he does get some form back, he will be great value. And then so moving on, I can't really see anybody else here that I want to talk about. So moving on to Collingwood and Port Adelaide. So Dacos came back in good fashion with a 133, even though Willem Drew tagged him for a little bit. But when that tag loosened up, he went nuts in that second half and ended up with that 133. But for the rest of Collingwood's team, there's no one really else to look at. But with Dacos, he went up 10k this week, so his break even's 95, and he's got Anzac Day coming up. I think he is the player to bring in this week. Him and Walsh. And even Dawson. I mean, I think they are the players of great value this week where their break-even is low or lowish, and they will really jump in price over the next few weeks. So, who you decide to bring in, that's the question. Depends on your structure. Depends on your strategy. Dacos will definitely be a top 6 defender by the end of the year, so he's a premium and a must-have. Will Walsh finish in the top 8 mids by the end of the year? Will Dawson? So that's the question. We want to try to bring in these top sort of 10 mids by the end of the year. Look, I think they will be. I think Walsh has got really good health. You can tell by the way he's tackling and the contested possessions he's getting. I think Dawson will also, from here on, you would expect him averaging at least 105 at that score. At that price. I think that's pretty good, but you'd expect him to average more than that considering his form from last year. I guess we're a bit more hopeful. But looking over to Port, so Dan Houston scored a 141. So here's another one that we need to consider for our top defenders. So he's averaging 115. You just look at that run. He hasn't, his lowest score this year has been 105, and he got his highest score of 141. So he's now 597k. Looks like he's going to finish up being a top 6 defender, and one we may have to look at trying to get in at some point. Zach Butters scored a 127, and that really pleased his owners, but of course it could have been higher than that. He did drop off towards the back end of that game. But he continues to score well. He's averaging 127. So, if you started him, well done. I think to try to get him in now is pretty difficult. Horn Francis scored an 86. There were images of him, I guess, sort of just feeling at his hamstring a little bit. We'll see this week if that is an issue. Maybe Hinckley might decide to rest Horn Francis this week. Who knows? We'll find out. But for those that brought him in, he's scored 2 scores now of 93 and 86. Hopefully he can get back to that, to those scores, those tons he scored earlier. And then Ollie Wines a 70, so that's not great. I think it's time to move him on. So the big disappointment was Connor Rozee, as I mentioned. For those that own him, like myself, an absolutely pitiful effort from him. I got to watch this game, and there were just so many missed handballs, missed kicks, clangers. The disposal efficiency was horrible. So he had 4 clangers, 55% disposal efficiency, 11 handballs of the 20 possessions he had. It was just a horrible game. I would expect he will come out firing this week against the Saints at home. I do worry that he might be a bit of a downhill skier a little bit with his scoring. When he plays at home, he scores well. Then for the tougher games or when he plays away, maybe he doesn't perform as well. Time will tell. He's played pretty much nearly all of his games at Adelaide Oval this year. So hopefully he does bounce back this week for my sake anyway. But for those who don't own him, who are looking at maybe bringing in someone like a Rozee, he's going to drop under 600k this week because he's got a break even of 156. So let's wait till he bottoms out if you're looking at bringing him in. So Walsh scored a 130 and he's primed to bring in. He's on the bubble. The Blues had a really good win over a very good opponent in the GWS. But nothing much really to say with Walsh. You're worried about his body. Well, he had 4 tackles, 11 contested possessions, and a 130. So he would definitely be the one to bring in. As I said, Dacos, Dawson, Walsh. They're the ones to consider, I think, that are value that will have a really good year for the rest of this year. So Cripps scored a 142. I don't think there are many that own Cripps or have gotten onto Cripps. Only 4% owned. I just think people don't want to take the risk with him. And then sort of moving on through the Carlton team. We head towards the bottom, and just really unfortunate with Zach Williams. He only scored a 33. I don't really know what that injury is. I think it might be his Achilles, but I don't know how serious the injury is. But I think he probably needs to go now. Break even of 62. and he's averaging 66. So, and depending on what his injury is, but yeah, you could definitely trade him out if you have to. Sure, you could certainly hold him. And then Jack Carroll, that's going to really hurt us for Jack Carroll owners. I brought him in thinking, he was going to be used in the midfield a lot, but I guess maybe since Walsh has come in, it's impacted his role in the team. Having said that, Chera is not playing, and maybe that is helping Walsh with him. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how the team looks when Chera comes back in. But Carroll now is going to start losing cash. He's made 109k, which is not too bad, but lost 9k this week, break even of 81. There's every chance that he could be dropped this week, even though the coach and the players love him. But yeah, the fact that he was used as a sub, we'll have to just wait and see. Obviously, it'll probably be better to trade him out, but I'm really hoping that he makes the best 22 this week, hopefully. For the GWS, so Josh Kelly put up a 132. He had a really good game. Mind you, that included 3 goals. But break even of 73 now, and he's worth 541, and he's averaging 103. If you think that he will continue to average well, then he's pretty good value. But you might be going someone like a Dawson, possibly. The other thing too is I think I just want to check Hogan because I know there was a few that jumped on Hogan, so only 5%. So he's suspended this week, but you'd probably keep him on the bench. So Lockie Whitfield at 85, that's okay. Look, he's going to continue to have scores like this every now and then. 539k, break even of 114, averaging 105. Look, he will likely finish in that top 10 defenders for the year. So just keep an eye on him. For those who don't own Tom Green, now Tom Green, as I mentioned, got an 82, and that was to be expected against Carlton. But if you don't own him, then you're licking your lips, because he's got a break even of 183. He dropped 46k this week, and he's probably due to drop another 40k this week as well. So you might be able to get him in the next week or 2 or 3 for, in the low 500s, low to mid 500s. So that is a bargain for Tom Green. So I would be monitoring him if you don't own him, and then bring him in when he bottoms out. A bit disappointing, obviously, for owners for Tom Green, but as I said, I kind of expected it. He still had 30 possessions, which is a good effort, but that was the problem. He had 9 clangers, so he lost 36 points just in clangers, and so that really does hurt his score. Not to mention, his disposal efficiency was okay, 70%, but it was the clangers that really hurt him. And then that's probably it for GWS. I was happy with Cadman, break even of 36. He's made 152k, done his job. Keep him for another week or 2, I reckon, and then we'll be looking at trading him. For owners of Jacob Ware, 52. Ware, sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. So he's made 140k, break even of 39, should crack that 150k mark maybe next week or the week after. So for his owners, you'll be looking at trading him out. I don't know if anyone really brought in Harvey Thomas. I know I checked this last week, but I just forgot how many own him. So 13%. So here's another one, made 128k, break even of 25. Just hold him till he maxes out. For Brisbane and Geelong, so Zorko continues to be awesome value in our forward line. We're all a little bit worried because of his body. Will it actually hold up? But he's gone up 66k now, went up another 18k, break even of 66, averaging 108, playing that half-back role. So he not only was playing that role and had 20 kicks, of the 26 possessions he had, but 8 marks, 6 tackles, 2 goals. He's in great form, and has to be considered a premium for your forward line, top 6 premium forward. And we're desperate for value forwards or for premium forwards. He's one we really have to look at, and probably been looking at for probably the last couple of weeks. So Lachie Neale got tagged by Mark O'Connor, but still ended up with a 109. So that probably doesn't change too much for him if you're looking at maybe wanting to bring him in. Break even of 136. He's averaging 116. I think we're all just kind of ignoring Neale, but he hasn't gone below 109 yet. So he's actually doing all right. So if he drops under 600k, maybe he might be good value to bring in. Dunkley a 98. So it's not too bad. You're looking at maybe bringing him in. He might be good value. Break even of 124. He's 603k. He's averaging 108. So he's one to consider around that price point. I think some may have brought in Kai Lohmann. Just see his ownership. Only 3%, so I won't really bother with him. If you have him, obviously you just wait till he maxes out and then trade him. But then looking at, so some may have had Jared Lyons or brought him in on the buy, and he scored a 41, so that was risky. So Jack Bowes a 124, so that's really interesting now with him in how he's being used. Just having a look at the Geelong team, so only the 5% CBAs, but he's actually playing or rotating through the midfield still, even though he's got the low CBAs. But a 124 for him, a 90, a 104, and a 124 in his last 3 games, 410k. He's gone up 68k, but a break even of 6. So if you think he's going to continue to play in the midfield and hopefully average that 100 to 105 mark, then he might be an option. Looking through, I think Tom Stewart, so he'll likely miss this week and with concussion. But I think for non-owners, you'd probably keep him on the bench because he's only missing 1 week. But for non-owners, he now starts to become a lot of value. So he's got a break-even of 137. He's lost 97k overall and went down 37k this week. So he will likely finish a top 10 defender as well. So I think for non-owners, let's see how low his price can go before we consider him. Oliver Dempsey, he's getting close now to being traded. He only scored a 53 and he went up 8k. He's made 158k, really hoping he was going to make more than that. But he's really fallen off a bit. But break even of 66. I think if you're not trading this week, you're probably trading next week unless he puts in a really big score. And then Jai Clark, we just need to get rid of him if we've got him. But there might be more important things that we're doing. So West Coast and Freo, and we just obviously didn't expect Harley Reid to score what he did, a 147. All of his points came, naturally he got the 3 goals, but 13 contested possessions, 7 clearances, but only 2 clangers and 84% disposal efficiency in the 19 possessions. So a 147 from him. I think if we own him, we're just wrapped with that. He's now got a negative 30 break even. And he's made 186k already and went up 75k. So for the 78% teams that have him still and own him, we'll ride this one out as long as we can. Elliot Yeo continues his ways, a 112, went up 44k this week, gone up 127k overall, 59k break even. Is he another value pick to bring in? Maybe last week, maybe this week. I think at 574k though, you're looking at a Dacos and a Walsh before you look at a Yeo, in my opinion, or even a Dawson, obviously. And then I think for the rest of West Coast, there's probably no one else that we're seriously considering. Obviously, Jeremy McGovern has been quite a surprising pick. So he's gone up 66k, break even of 135, had a great start to the year and then got a 72 last week, but then 100 again this week. So I'm not saying that you should bring him in, but I think if you did bring him in, then that was a bit of an inspired pick because he's actually averaging 109. But with Freo, so Caleb Sarong got a 117 in a game where Fremantle just got smacked. But he did all right. Was expecting him to do much better considering the way he started and his first half. So a 117 for him, a 115 for Jordan Clark. He continues to perform and get some decent scores on and off. So a 108, a 119, 119, 84, 84, 115. So he's actually doing quite well. Only 508k and has gone up 47k overall. So just, again, another one to think about in your defense. Sean Darcy came in, scored a 102. Is he going to be another ruck we could potentially consider? I mean, with Jackson in the team, I'm not sure, but his break-even's 130 now. Let's just see how he goes over the next few weeks. So Luke Jackson scored a 90, which is all right, I guess. He still did a bit of rucking. Fortunately, he kicked those 2 goals. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got that 90 score. But yeah, he's just going to continue to drop. He's lost 16k now, considering, like overall, considering how he started. And it's probably time to move him on. Maybe you could move Jackson to, like a Heaney or a Flanders or even a Zorko in your forward line, and even a McRae. That's also an option, considering how cheap McRae is. But I don't know how well Jackson's going to go from here. For now, I'm holding Jackson. I just want to fix up a few other things first before worrying about him. But yeah, so 90 for him. Nat 5 just continues to score well, and 89 for him. So for his owners, you're certainly just holding on to him. Went up another 27k. He's made 115k overall. He's done his job. He's averaging 85. Break even of 58. So I think you're definitely holding him unless you want to downgrade him to get that cash. Luke Ryan, an 89. So finally, he kind of dropped a little bit. Luke Ryan does do this, though. He gets on a tear for a little while, for a few games, and then he just has a bit of a low score. But, I mean, if you're an owner, you're not too fussed with that. But for non-owners, break even of 132. We'll see if he can get any cheaper before bringing him in. We'll have to keep a lookout for Hayden Young. So we don't know what's happening with his hamstring. He spent most of that fourth quarter off the ground. Let's hope for Hayden Young owners that it's nothing serious, and at worst he maybe misses one game. But yeah, we'll find out tomorrow, I guess, when the injury list comes out. Jeremy Sharp, a 67. Now, he's probably about ready to go. His break-even is 72. He averages 75. He's gone up 213k. Unless he puts out a monster score, then he's probably ready to go. If not this week, then next week. It's probably about it for that game. And then going into Sydney and Gold Coast. So Brodie Grundy put up a 158. I guess, many of us probably did trade him out earlier. But look, he is a good ruckman. And you'd expect him to just get better as the year goes on. But if you look at his scores, he's actually averaging 112 now. Break even of 59, only 542. You probably wouldn't be bringing him in, but if you own him, then certainly he's one that you would be holding, and likely even holding for the rest of the year. 54% owned still, so well done to you if you've kept and held on to Grundy. Matt Roberts, a 117. So I was actually thinking of trading him this week, but how can you? He scored a 117, break even of 22. He's averaging 89. He's made 226k. What a rookie. What a fantastic start to pick him at the start when we're picking our teams. So, yeah, hold on to him. Ride him out as long as you can. Make as much money, I think, as you can off him. But you could make that aggressive trade. Go early. Get the cash if you want to upgrade to someone before they jump in price, like a premium. That makes sense. Heaney, a 98. And that was heavily affected by his 7 clangers. So he lost 28 points there, 53% disposal efficiency. So I wouldn't be worried too much about Heaney. It was, again, one of those games where, again, just the efficiency was not great. But yeah, he'll come back and score well. He's got the role, so I wouldn't worry too much. Errol Goulden, the 98. So again, similar with him too. Lost 28 points in clangers, 63% disposal efficiency, only 2 tackles. So that's probably affected his score because he actually had 30 possessions. So I think if you're looking at Heaney or Goulden to bring in, I mean, Heaney's only 114 break even, 659k, very, very pricey. Yeah. I think maybe there's other better value, of course, out there. I know we're pretty desperate to get Heaney in our team if we don't have him. And Errol Goulden, he's probably much better value. So he's 585k now, break even of 107. He's certainly an option to bring in. He's around that mark as well with Dacos and Walsh and even Dawson. So James Jordan got an 88, pretty good. He was tagging Anderson and held Anderson to a 50 while he scored 88. So that was a pretty good effort from him. Adams an 87, but I don't know, you wouldn't be considering some of these players. Well, I wouldn't be looking at them. And then moving on to Gold Coast, so Rao continues his form, a 126, 12 tackles, 15 contested possessions. That's his MO now. So I don't know about, I mean, I guess you could, he's 640, so it's not about bringing him in, but he's averaging, 130. So, wow. So if you started him, well done. Flanders a 110. He's going to be F1, F2 by the end of the year, maybe F3. But yes, 578k, again, in that price range of some of these other players I've mentioned. It just depends on what you value. Do you want to get that forward premium in or fix up somewhere else or get your premium mids? But there's about 4 or 5 players now in that 550 to 600 range that are worth picking up this week. Mac Andrew has been a real surprise. He's playing so well. So he's now went up 56k this week, break even of 11. I don't know if anyone jumped on him. What's his ownership? Only 2%, but yeah, just a shame. If he was cheaper, I think we would have jumped on. Took Miller an 88, as I mentioned, really disappointing. But it's Took. He's averaging 113. He's not going to do that again. I think they got West Coast this week, so he'll come out and score quite well, you would imagine, this week. Even though West Coast had a good week last week, I think Gold Coast at home should do well. And you'd expect Miller to ton up. So Closey continues to be a fantastic win for us. He's already gone up $114. 114k, sorry, not dollars, 114k in just 3 games. So negative 75 break even. What a cash cow. So Berry, I don't know if anyone has still held on to Berry, but he scored a 74. He did all right. So for the 8% of owners, he's made 107k. For a while there, it was concerning, but now negative 7 break even. So he might end up making that 150k, as that's worked out well. Will Graham came on, scored a 61. Happy with him. Negative 45 break even. Well, hopefully he continues to score well, and we can make some cash off him. Jake Rogers was the other rookie that came in this week, but only a 28 for him. And that's probably about it. Noah Anderson, I think some brought him in, but he was tagged. What are you going to do? Scored a 50. But yeah, he'll be better than that next week. And for the last game of the round, we've got North Melbourne and Hawthorn. Tristan Sherry, a 144. Just awesome. You'd be so happy if you started with him. Obviously, I think the English Sherry combo at the start of the year seems to be or even the Gawn Sherry combo was probably the one to start with at the start of the year, and that's worked out quite well. Sheasel, a 110. It's a pretty good effort considering he was tagged by Finn McGuinness for a little while there, but still did quite well and will continue to average around that 120, 125 mark for the year without a doubt. So I've got LDU, and so I'm not going to go on and on about LDU because only 5% own him, but he's one of those ones now where he's got the potential to score, but I don't like the way he's playing. I watched this game as well, and he's not just not chasing, doesn't show the aggression he should be showing when the player's right in front of him, when the ball's right in front of him, yeah, sure. But other than that, anyway, just going to hold him and I'll work around him and I'll look to trade him later on. So Powell, a 73. Again, North were absolutely terrible in this game. And he did quite well to get to 73. It didn't look like he was going to get there. But, I guess for a F4 or 5, or even F6, he'll end up being. It's not too bad just to hold on to him because he's averaging 93. He's averaging in the 90s. So if he can continue to average that, I guess we can just hold on to him, and eventually, when we get some decent forward premiums, we can upgrade. But yeah, break even of 72. That's fine. I reckon he could achieve that this week. Zach Fisher, 71. Again, he's just got to go. Charlie Comben was disappointing, and that's just because he was doing all right in defense, but then he got moved to the forward line, scored a 55. So I wouldn't be too concerned. I mean, he's still got a pretty good break even of 33. So he should get past that this week. Hopefully, Clarko leaves him in defense, and he should get a pretty decent score. Blake Drury, I don't know if any brought him in or are going to bring him in. Negative 46 break even. He only scored a 39, but that's what you got to expect with him playing that kind of forward pocket, half forward type role. And then Biggie Newen, he scored a 46, so he's the other one that some might be considering bringing in this week. So hopefully, he continues to maintain his position and have that job security. Negative 64 break even, I think. He's one, certainly worth considering bringing in. Probably Garcia might be the one maybe to go with, but probably Biggie over Drury, I would have thought. McKercher, only a 34, but that has a lot to do with the fact that he had 6 clangers, so he lost 24 points there and 41% disposal efficiency. So I am going to hold him. I know I'm losing cash on him. He went down 30k this week, break even of 104, and will likely lose more money. But I've just got other things to do, and I'm just going to ride him out, I think. Lazaro, 33, Desmond, 27, all pretty bad scores. But then for the Hawks, Newcomb came good. So he's, let's have a look. So a 110, a 61, and a 129 in these last 3 games. Lost 57k now overall. Is he an option to bring in? He's under 500k, maybe. Sicily scored 100. Let's wait till he continues to bottom out a bit more. 115k break even. I guess we want to see some more tons from him. It's a bit difficult to see that when they need more key position players down there so he can play loose, and that's just not going to be the case. And I think Jayath as well had a setback, so he's probably not coming into the team for a while longer. Carl Am on a 74. D'Ambrosio scored a 60. He really needs to go. If you've got him, it's probably time now to trade him out. I think his break even. Let's see what his break even is. Break even's 45. So look, it's not urgent, but yeah, maybe you could hold him again. But he did get subbed. I think it was a tactical sub as well, but there's an option there anyway to trade him. So that's pretty much all the players that are relevant. But if we go to go to some of these players that are on the bubble, let's see who is of interest here. So as I mentioned, you've got Sam Walsh. So Taylor Adams is on the bubble, averaging 92. But I don't think anyone will be looking at bringing him in. As I mentioned, actually, let's go to break evens rather than that. So let's look at the break evens. So Yeah, as I mentioned, so we got Biggie and negative 64. Lafau's the one that's coming in this week from Richmond. So he's got a negative 52 break even. He's 184k. That's primarily because he scored that 108 in his last game, but his previous games were not great. So sure, he's an option to bring in, but you'd be looking at Biggie or Drury even. But Garcia is probably the one, considering looks like he's got job security now and playing in the midfield. But yeah, so a few good negative break evens there. Toby Conway, I don't know about his job security though. 180k, negative 44 break even. So Jace Burgoyne, I think initially we were all looking at picking him. And he's only just starting to come good. Last 2 games, 93, 88. He's gone up 70k, negative 38 break even. He's 250k. I don't know how much more cash he will make, but yeah, it would have been good to have jumped on maybe last week if you wanted him, because he went up 41k this week. And that's probably maybe about it of the break evens of players that are probably worthwhile. Kane McAuliffe's the other one, negative 7 break even. He's on the bubble too. A 16 and a 58, negative, yeah, as I said, negative 7 break even. Only 117k, so you could look at bringing him in, but probably Garcia would be the one there. There's a few players here that have played just 1 game, but yeah, we'll wait till they're on the bubble. So as far as players with a very high break even that we're waiting on, I mentioned some of these players already, but Tom Green is a 183 break even. English is 177. Laird's 174. Bont is 171. Rowan Marshall 168. Oliver 160. I guess we'll be waiting on with some of these players till they bottom out. And then Petrarca 157, Merritt 156, Rosé 156. So I think with some of these players, let's just wait and see till they bottom out. And like Sinclair's a 150, let's just wait till he actually scores well, a little bit like Oliver. So that's just a few players to think about now. As far as my team goes for this week, so obviously I'll be bringing Gawn back onto the ground. I will be moving Jackson into my forward line. I'll probably put the VC on Gawn. And then the captaincy could really be anyone. I would imagine there's a fair few players I think we could captain. I mean, Merritt and Dacos at the Anzac Day game. I guess you could captain Tom Green. But I think on Friday night, it'll be Butters or Jack Steele. You can certainly captain Sheasel against Adelaide at home on Saturday. And you'd expect Walsh would do okay against Geelong. I don't know about being a captain, but obviously you've got Bont and English. You got Sarong there with the Freo Western Bulldogs game. But then you got Gold Coast and the West Coast game. So Gold Coast, maybe Flanders, or even a Tuke Miller, maybe, against West Coast. I know West Coast are playing well recently, but that game is at home for the Gold Coast. And then you've got the Sydney game. So we could go Heaney against Hawthorn. Maybe they send Finn McGuinness to him. I'm not sure. But for my team, so I've got, I think at this stage, yeah, definitely VC Gawn. And I think as far as the captain goes, I guess I'll put it on Miller for now, but that's likely to change. But I've just got it on Miller for now, or maybe even Sarong. Yeah. Anyway, I'll just keep on Sarong. I'm just going to think about it for a bit. Then as far as my trades go, so I think at this stage, I might be trading Williams. I'll bring McKercher into my defense because I can do that now. And I'll probably bring in Garcia. So that leaves me with 213k. I think Sharp has maxed out now. He might put up a really big score, I think like he did a few rounds ago, but I think I'm going to trade him out now, and that's only because I can get Dawson at 533k. So I might make that trade. So that's a downgrade upgrade. I'm trying to get to full premium as quick as I can. So now I've got Sarong, Rozee, Green, Miller, Dawson, and Davies Uniacke with Reed and Roberts. And that's all in my midfield. Carroll, Clark, Garcia on the bench. Carroll and Clark are a bit of dead wood at the moment. Hopefully Carroll plays. Clark I've got to get rid of at some point. In my defense, Sheasel, Dacos, Yo, Wangani, Malera. Happy with that. I've got Closey and Graham. And then I've also got McKercher as an option. Hoare I need to get rid of. He might come back again and play, but it's unlikely. With my rucks, Gawn and Marshall. So that's my ruck set for the rest of the year. With my forwards, I've got Heaney, Flanders, Jackson, and Powell. So Jackson and Powell should score hopefully semi-okay. And then I've got Dempsey and Darcy, and then Cadman and Wilson. So I'm probably going to have to look at upgrading my forward line, maybe even next week. If McRae puts in a really good performance, may look at upgrading to McRae. I've also got my eye on Bont. Hopefully in a couple of weeks he bottoms out to under 600k, and may even look at trying to get him in as well. But yeah, looking at my team, I'm pretty happy with it going forward. We'll see. I'm optimistic about how I'm going to go this week. But you know, you can be positive, but it all depends on how your premiums perform on the day. So hopefully they all come good. Hopefully I end up having a good round. I'm expecting to. But yeah, ranked 15k. I expect that to start moving up in the next few weeks. So hopefully you guys got a bit out of this video, if you're watching or if you're listening only. And hopefully you guys have a really good week. We're starting to get to the point of downgrading, upgrading. We want to bring in value premiums, or at least premiums we think will average in that top 10, the top 10 in their position. We want to start getting premiums on the field as quick as we possibly can. Well, that's the way that I'm trying to do it. I know that it may bite into my trades a little bit, but yeah, I'll sort of the way that I play it, I guess. And you know, in some years I'm very, very successful. In other years, not so much. So it's just the risk, and there's that high risk, high reward. Just doing what you can to get to full premium as quick as possible. But yeah, so again, like I said, hope you guys have a really good week, and I'll catch up with you at the completion of round 7. See ya.